Hello friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to talk about CORS, C-O-R-S, CORS, in .NET Web API and Blazor application. It's talking about Blazor standalone application because that is where we need to include this core feature. Have you heard about CORS before? Do you actually know what it does? If you don't, I'm going to take you through from the basic steps here for you to know what it's going to do and how to configure this security feature in your application. For a successful communication and performing all the CRUD endpoint from your client to your server application, you cannot neglect CORS. CORS is very essential in terms of allowing client to have access to your web API or server resources. This feature is defaultly set against any external port aside from the default one from any web API. So if I have a client web application which runs on a port maybe 8000 and is going to access a server port of maybe 7000, it is not going to allow it because it is the resources here or the request is coming from a different port, and this time around, or in this case, it's not going to allow that. So we need to specify it so it can allow any external port to have access to resources that we need. All right, now CORS, or that's the CORS, stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. It is a security feature implemented in web browsers to prevent scripts running on one website from accessing resources on another domain. Each core policy defines rules for allowing or restricting cross-origin requests, determine which domains are permitted to access the resources of web application. Now, in configuring CORS, there are two ways of configuring it. You can add an policy which relate to a specific domain, or you can add a default policy which has access to all domains. Let's have a look with the two that I'm talking about. Now I have a solution created, I have an API added, I have Blazor application added, another one also added. So you can see I have an API, I have Blazor, there's a standalone application, WebAssembly, and also I have two WebAssemblies in here and now one API. I've done no configuration to this, so if I run this, each is running on its own. So let's try that and check it out. So you can see that here I have this an API, and on the API I have, that's the default one, weather forecast. That is the default one included as soon as I created this project. When you also do so, this is what you're going to have. Yes. Aside from that, I have this Blazor app 1, as you can see from here, and I have this Blazor app 2. I've done no configuration to this. You know, when you create a default Blazor application, you have this weather forecast, and it mimics of getting the data from an API. Meanwhile, it is not. It is getting the data from a file instead. So we're going to navigate this to get the data from this API. And you can see that this weather forecast here, or this application Blazor app 2, runs on the port of 7189. Blazor app 1 runs on the port of 7280. So this is the domain for this port, for this application, and that is also the domain for this application. When you check the API to it has its own domain, and which comes in as what? Localhost, and the port is 7174. So you can see that you have three different ports in here. This Swagger here, or this API here, is a server, and which needs to serve data to the two guys here, whereby each also has its own port. Now, in order for these two guys to access resource from this API or this server, we have to configure the CORS. Now, the CORS is going to tell this API that anytime a request is made, please do check the port and the domain. If it corresponds to this one or this, please do access. Give this request an access to access anything because it is a domain that I want, or I wanted to connect. Okay, so give it access and no talk. Yes, so it's a command that you're going to issue to the server, and anytime a request is made, it's going to check if this call is configured with this specific related origin or the domain. If it has it, then it gives it the green light to access the resources. Okay, so now let's see. For now, let's try to configure this to get access to the API, and now let's check whether it's going to throw any error or any exception when we have no CORS configured. So we go to application from this, and in here, when you check our weather forecast, you know, the endpoint here it is coming from, let's make a request. It is coming from localhost 7174. So let's copy this one and let's go to application from Blazor app 1 pages. Let's go to program.cs file first, and in here we want to set the base address to the API port because that's what we're going to be using often. So I'm going to clear this one, then replace this. We're going to do same to the Blazor app 1. No, that's the app 2. So we have it in here. Okay, now let's go to the weather component in here, and you can see that you have HTTP client here, which is going to be used to make a request to an endpoint. Now when it comes to when the page initializes, it is getting it from a JSON file. Okay, but this time we don't want to do that. So let's check from the, let's grab this weather forecast. Now since we have the base address set, there's no need for us to specify the whole address in here. We have the base address set at 1, so anytime that I want to make a call, we're going to take the base address, and now / you're going to append the API endpoint or the controller name, and boom, that is all. Let's grab this. Let's go to Blazor app 2, so pages, and now in here we're going to also make the same changes. Okay, so now we have this. Now let's run this and check it out. Now the apps are ready, so now let's hook it up and check it. So from this weather forecast, we have it here. Now you can see it is not getting it from this, and we have an issue here. Check out this also. Go to weather. We have the same issue. Why? Right click on this, go to inspect elements, check the console tab, and now let's see the issue in there. Okay, so you can see here we have, it is saying that access to fetch this is the controller. Okay, so it is blocked from this. That is a 7189, and that is this application. So this application is trying to access a controller endpoint of this, and it has been blocked by CORS. Now this is blocking by the server. The server does not know this, so it's going to block it. And it is saying that has been blocked by a CORS policy. No access control allow origin header is present on the request resource. You see, so it has been blocked, and it has this CORS, that's a cross origin resource sharing. So we need to enable this domain. We need to enable it in the API so that anytime a request is made, it knows it, then it can give green light to access its resources. Okay, when you check the app 2, the same thing. Have you seen yours? You can see that you're having the same, isn't it? Yeah, so we need to raise out service for this. Now, in configuring CORS, there are two ways, as I said earlier on. The first one is going to be add the default policy, and we have a specific policy. Default policy, this is going to be like a base policy for all. If you set a default policy, it's going to be set as default for all requests. Let's have a look on that. So we can define that in the program.cs file in our server. Take note, in our server. So we go to our program, and now in here we're going to add beta.services .add. So here we're going to add CORS. So that is this. Okay, now with this CORS that you're going to add, maybe you can decide to specify some policies that you want. Now have a look. We have in builder.services.add CORS. We specify an option, and now in this option we are saying that add default policy. So as I said earlier on, this is going to be the default for all requests that comes in here. Now take a look. You can see that here we are specifying allow any origin. Any origin is the same as allowing any domain. So any domain that's going to come in here, we want to allow it to have access. This is not the best way, okay? It's not the best way. But for now, we want to show that it is a way of adding a default policy. You can also specify a specific domain that you want to allow in your default request. So if any request comes in and check the default and it doesn't have it, then it's going to block that request. Now we have any method. Now this method are the CRUD or the HTTP verb. That is a create, post. That is we have post, delete, get, and put, patch. So these are the method. So you can specify which method do I want to allow in this application. Maybe this specific for defaultly I want to allow only delete or only get. Okay, I want to allow delete and get method. I don't want to allow delete or maybe post. So you can specify your own, but for now we are allowing any origin, any domain at all. We are also allowing any method at all that's going to come in, and also any header. Now this any header is going to comprise of any customized header is going to be accepted. Okay, so we are not specifically, or we are not saying that it should accept a specific header. No, we are saying that any header that comes in, please do allow. So this is making it a free range for all endpoint or all domains, which is going to make a request as a client to this server. Now once you're done with it, the next thing I'm going to do here is we have this CORS configured, but we are not using this CORS. So how do you use this CORS? It's very simple. You go to where you have this middleware pipeline and I'm going to say that app.use CORS. This is what that you need to do. Now if we save this, let's run this again and now check it out. Alright, so now the apps are ready. Now let's go and check it out. You have our API. It is working as expected. That's good. We go to our Blazor app 1, and in here we have app 2 also. They are all run perfectly. Now let's click on weather forecast. But before we do that, we're going to click on inspect element to go to this network tab and then hit on this weather component. Now you can see when you click on this weather link to go to the component, you can see we have this call. And now when you check this, it is making a call to this 7174/weather forecast, and that is our API. And it gave a code of 200. We have the resources or the content in here. You can see that here we did not specify a specific domain in a server. We made it general. Now within general, it accepted this. So any request at all that is coming from an external port or external domain is going to access it, because we said that in the default policy, please allow any origin. So you can see Blazor app 1, we have it. Check Blazor app 2, click on this 2 and we have it. So when you have another project, another application that is a Blazor app 3 or any other project at all, you make a request to this endpoint, you're going to have the same contents I'm having in here. That is the first one. What if you want to make a specific CORS? If you want to add as related to a domain, this 7189, that's a Blazor app 2. I want to register CORS to this and I want to allow some method. Okay, how do you do that? So let's say once you have this default one, you can override this default one. How do you do that? Let's add another service to this. Let's say if an app or if a client does not have any specific CORS assigned, then please assign the default one. But let's say it has a default one in there. Now this default one in here, this is what you're going to do, add CORS. And now with this CORS, you're not going to add default policy because you have it configured already. We're going to say that add policy. And on this policy, let's give it a name. So this is Blazor app 1. Then with this Blazor app 1, instead of having this allow any origin, we're going to say that dot with origin. So with this origin, what is the origin here? What is the domain here? We go to the application from this Blazor app 1. Then this is the origin, so we're going to grab this. Let's go to application. Then we're going to paste this in here. So it's going to allow content from this domain. Aside from this, we don't want to allow any method. So you want to say with method. So with method, you're going to make a specific in here. Get, that is a simple request. It is part, post, and header. These are simple requests. And default listeners, you enable CORS, they are defaultly allowed automatically. So you want to allow this. And also, so you want to allow only this get method. For delete, you don't want to allow delete. Now allow any header. Well, you can allow any header, or if you have a specific header that you want to include, you can also make it in here. Now once you're done, what we're going to do here is let's grab this, let's make a duplicate of this, and now let's use this. So you see here we are overriding this default one. So it's going to check the first one. I'm going to check default one fine. I can allow access to all, and the second service that we are adding, it is specific to what? Blazor app 1. And now when you have this endpoint coming in, or this domain coming in, it's going to check, I want to allow you to have access to only this get method. Aside from that, if you have any post or delete, I'm not going to allow access. Okay. Now in order to do that, you have to enforce this. Since we have this default enabled here, we have to enforce it on the endpoint. So go to this weather forecast controller, go to your API. So where's my API? Have you found yours? Cannot see mine. Okay, that's it. API controller. Okay, and now from this endpoint, I'm going to enable the CORS here to restrict it. This is very important. So you say enable CORS, and now this pass in the Blazor app 1. Okay, so it's going to allow access to this one. And here we're going to have another method. Let's say let's have some default method. Maybe we're going to make like we want to delete. Is that wrong? We are not deleting. So delete this. So it's just an action result. You pass in the ID and now delete return OK. And that is it. Okay. You want to actually check if the delete is going to work or not. Now let's save this. Once you have this, we're going to save that. Now we say we have this enable Blazor app 1 in here. We can also enable this down here. But when you check the program from the server, you will see that we did not configure delete. Okay, now let's go to our Blazor app 1. So Blazor app 1. This is the Blazor app 1. We go to our pages and our home. Before that, I want to verify whether it is the same endpoint in here. 720, that's fine. Now in this weather forecast, we also want to make another request in here, and I'll check it up. So we have http delete async, and with the delete async, it is the same weather forecast /delete. Let's pass in 1 in here. Okay, so we're going to make a 2 request. Now let's save this, let's run this, and I'll check it out. So now let's check it out. From here we have Blazor app 2, we have Blazor app 1. From the inspect, we go to the console tab, and now with this, let's click on weather. You can see from here we have this issue. It has been blocked by a CORS policy method of what delete. So delete is not allowed for this domain, but you're trying to delete and it has been blocked. Let's see from the get. You go to the network tab, and now from this get, you can see that we have the content in here from weather forecast code that it made. From this preview or the response, we have the content in here. So you can see that the get request was successful, but the delete request was not successful because we did not, or we excluded the delete method, and so the server will not go to allow this domain to have access to its controller's action method of delete. Now when you go to this Blazor app 2 and try to click on weather forecast, it also has issue. Why? When you check this console, it is saying that there's no CORS configured for this. Why? The reason is, when you check the controller, you can see that here we made an explicit bound to this CORS. So this CORS here has been enabled to, or has been attached to, when you go to the program.cs, to this domain. Okay, so it tells you that only this domain can have access to that, and that's the reason why it is not allowing it. Now in order for it to get the same content, maybe what we're going to do here is we can make a copy of this. We can make a copy of this, and now we can specify this as http get, and now here we're going to give it a name as weather. And let's say this is get weather. So with this, we can now grab this. We go to this weather forecast of 2. That's the Blazor app 2 weather forecast. And now in here, we can specify that. So we are creating a different endpoint for this. And now when we run this, since it has the default policy configured, it's going to fall on the default policy and used to make the call. So let's see. Now Blazor app 2, you can see now we have the data. Yes, so maybe what if in case you don't want to have an extra or similar endpoint for another one. So let's say maybe you have 4 domains accessing this content. Do you have to copy and paste this 4 times? No, you don't. There's one way. The other way around here is you also add this. So in order to do this, see what I'm doing. We go to our application in here, and let's remove this one. Let's go to our controller. We want to remove this weather. So we have this Blazor app here. We need to attach this domain, the external domain that you want to have access to this. We need to attach it to this CORS. Okay, so go to the server program.cs, and in here let's give comma another one. Let's check our domain from this Blazor app 2, and it runs on 7189 port. Let's grab this. Let's go to application and now paste it in here. So it tells you that anytime that's going to make a request, it goes to this, and this is enabled CORS. So it's going to this limited to this CORS. Now when you check the definition for this CORS, you can see that it has these 2 domains, or these 2 origins, 7280 as port and 7189 as port. And anytime the request comes in, they're going to check, do you have the port as any of these? If yes, then it's going to allow this method, but it's going to disallow the post method for the 2 domains. Good. Now let's run this and check it out. Yeah, so you can see that we have the data from the content from the API in here. When you check this network tab, a call was made from this weather forecast and to 7174/weather forecast controller. And when you go to the preview, this is the content that we have, and that's what has been displayed on the screen for us. So you can see when you go to this, the same weather, and we're also going to have the same thing, just that here we are making a request to delete, and our delete is disallowed. So if we try to make the same request to this Blazor app 2, you're going to also have the same thing. Let's have a look. I'm going to grab the same from this weather, this request, then go to weather forecast 2, and now paste this request in here. Since they are all having the same endpoint, they're on the same pipeline of CORS configuration, they're going to produce the same result. Yeah, same result. Let's see. So Blazor app 1 is running, app 2 also running, and we have an issue here from the console. It is the same, delete. Check this, the same, delete. So that's a way to use the default policy, and a way to override the default policy based on a specific domain. Now the next one is just adding domain itself. Adding a core policy will limit it to a specific domain, and that is the second part that we had a look on. So when you go to the program.cs file in here, instead of this, you can decide to remove it. If you don't want to have any fallback policy, you can remove this one and maintain this. So when you maintain this, it tells you that any request that comes in here, which is not having the port of 7280 and 7189, either you have a controller endpoint which is not even bound to any port, it's not going to allow it. So if I remove this from here, and now with this, I go to this program and I decide to, this is a Blazor app 2. I decide to get rid of this. Now save this one and I'll run this application and let's check it out. Yeah, so you can see that from Blazor app 2, it tells you that here there's no policy at all, there's no CORS at all. When you go to this app 1, it tells you that method delete is not allowed. And when you go to the network tab and go to the weather forecast, you can see here it has the content in here because we are allowing this specific domain to have access to a get method or get endpoint. Okay, so that is the way to configure this policy or this CORS. Aside from this, there are a lot of policies that you can configure. When you check here, there are a lot that you can actually read through. So you can see from dot, there are a lot allow, speaking about allow any origin, any method. You can see there's a credential as well, any header, and you can add a lot in here. As you can see, so that is a way to integrate CORS in your server and your client for communication and also resource sharing. I believe this is clear. Maybe I'll leave this source code in the GitHub. Check the video description if you want to grab this and review. Yes, you have the green light. You can go ahead and do that. Alright, so that is it. I'm going to catch up in the next video. Till then, take care.